Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Lakers making the NBA playoffs. But can they go deep as they have to tussle against the reigning champs in the Denver Nuggets? Also, the Clippers are taking on the Dallas Mavericks right now, and they're actually winning against the Mavs? How are they doing it? Also, the LA Kings are in the playoffs, as we'll see who they drew. And we also have some MLS to discuss with the Galaxy and LAFC back at it, along with a little bit of some NWSL with Wave FC and Angel City FC. Plus, we have some Angels to recap, as they've just been sporadic, and the Dodgers have been struggling, which is a big ew. And we'll also talk about those San Diego Padres. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, Sunday morning, Sunday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made it to episode 177 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be live on Spreaker without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and X, formerly known as Twitter, at IE Sports Radio. And we also have a Facebook page for those that still use that. All you just have to do is type in the word IE, then sports, then radio in the search bar, like us, and then that's how you're able to follow us on that platform. And we also have a website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, our page dedicated to each podcast, our community forum, and our merchandise shop. For the last 9 years, soon to be 10 years, as that's less than a month away, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports days around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout to our sponsors, Plant Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Plant Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit plantjerky.net and place your order. In addition, prices are slashed for the time being, and if you buy a order's worth of $50 or more, you'll get it shipped for free! Once again, a huge shout to our sponsor, Plant Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Our second sponsor is Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch. Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or friend and you want to add their smile when they receive it. If that's the case, then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts is just for you. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. Follow them on Instagram at @sealthedeal_wax stamps. And the way you can follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SoCal Show IESR. You can follow me, Teran Rodriguez, on X, formerly known as Twitter as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. And without any further delay, let's begin. As Jen B, Mike, Pat, and Larry B are all in the chat room, all wishing me well. And Mike Pat says, I thought I was going to miss it because the app was being weird. No, I unfortunately went live a little bit later just because I kind of had to go on a little bit of a rant, but that's for later on in the show. And also, I had a little bit of tech issues and whatnot, but here I am now. Alright, let's begin, as we got to start with the NBA, with the Lakers, as, well, the Lakers, they made the playoffs, which I thought was rather impressive. So, how did the Lakers make the playoffs, you ask? Well, in their last game of the regular season, they took down the New Orleans Pelicans 124-108 last Sunday. And then this past Tuesday, they took on the New Orleans Pelicans again in New Orleans in the play-in tournament. So it was the 7th place versus the 8th place matchup, and the Lakers had the unfortunate honor of being the away team. But the Lakers were able to take down the Pelicans 110-106. Now, the Lakers actually led by as many as 18, which kind of irked me. And I was seeing this game, and eventually the Pelicans were just nibbling away at the lead. The Lakers had no answer for Zion Williamson, as he was just finding his way into the paint. And I feel a little bad for him because the dude did get hurt. But unfortunately, he just could not will the Pelicans to the victory, as late in the game, Anthony Davis just kept on coming up big, and that's what big time players do. They have to come up big in those moments if they want to keep their teams in the game. So Anthony Davis finished with 15 boards and 20 points. LeBron James led the Lakers with 23 points. D'Angelo Russell had 21 points. He actually made 5 threes as well. James also added 9 boards and 9 assists. Austin Reeves had 16 points. Rui Hachimura added 13 points. And like I said, the Pelicans were basically just carried by Zion Williamson. He had a 40-burger, 40 points. Most of it was just in the paint. And they also had 11 rebounds. Again, him getting hurt was unfortunate, and I feel bad because I feel if he doesn't get hurt, I think the Lakers have it's maybe a different outcome. But the Lakers had no business keeping the Pelicans in that game to begin with. So, in my opinion, the Lakers should have just handled business like they should have, because that's the difference between a playoff team and a non-playoff team, handling business. And honestly, I know people were saying that the Lakers should basically tank this matchup and play the Kings and the Warriors, but honestly, they would have faced the Kings because the Kings stomped on the Warriors, and the Kings had beaten the Lakers in the season series 4-0. Do we really trust the Lakers to get it done, even though it's going to be at Staples Center or Crypto.com Arena? Even do we trust them to even get the job done at that point? No. I don't trust it one bit. Because the Kings wouldn't have been traveling. They would have still been in California, and they just would have had to go a little more southern in terms of being in California. So, all in all, I think it was a good thing that the Lakers did not have to leave it to a game of chance of beating the Kings. But it is what it is. Mike Pat says, how did the Lakers make the playoffs? I think they saw the Wizards play and said, not that. Well, the Lakers had just been up and down in terms of availability and whatnot. So I think for the Lakers, they should be very fortunate they made the playoffs, because now they didn't, I would have probably blamed it on the play-in tournament, and they probably would have been dumb of the week. But thankfully, the Lakers were able to eke in. Unfortunately, they started their series off against the Denver Nuggets, the reigning champs, yesterday, and this is going to be in Denver. Denver has the home court advantage, and the Nuggets beat the Lakers 114-103. And what really hurt them was the third quarter, as the Lakers just got outdone 32-18. In translation, the Lakers were up by 1 at halftime, and then decided to concede pretty much in the third quarter. And despite everything, the Lakers just couldn't get done. And even a 32-point game from Anthony Davis couldn't help the Lakers. And 27 points from LeBron just did not help. AD also had 14 boards. D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves both had 13 points. Taurean Prince also came off the bench and added 11 points. But Nikola Jokic, man, he almost floated around and had a triple-double. He had 32 points, 12 boards, 7 assists. And that's the thing. He has a good supporting cast as well. Like Jamal Murray, he had 22 points along with 10 assists. Michael Porter Jr., he added 19 points. Like all the starters were in double digits for the Nuggets, including Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the former Laker. So it's unfortunate for the Lakers. They have to get at least one in Denver. If they can't get one in Denver, then this is going to be an uphill climb, or they're basically going to be stuck on a hamster wheel. And if Denver gets one in Los Angeles, then the Lakers are in a world of trouble. So next game is tomorrow in Denver on TNT, and then Thursday the series shifts to Los Angeles, and then Saturday as well. And hopefully, knock on wood, the Lakers will force Game 5 will be necessary. I understand the Lakers, they're not like the greatest, but they're certainly not the worst. I mean, there's a reason why they made the playoffs. But I will just say, at this point of the season, I'm just happy that the Lakers are basically in the playoffs. I know they really can't win against the Nuggets, but as long as they're in the playoffs, unlike the Warriors, sorry, Golden State Warriors fans, as well as the other teams that missed the playoffs, I can't really relate. And who knows, maybe the Lakers will get their second wind. Maybe Game 2, that'll be their eye-opener. But it's so tough to stop a team that actually is good from mostly top to bottom. And it's not just Jokic that's playing great or the Joker. It's everyone else that helps him about. Just because they have that supporting cast and they have that great coach. I'm not saying that Darvin Ham isn't a great coach, but he's just not on the level of Denver's coach. But it is what it is sometimes, and sometimes we just have to just accept the fact. And again, like I said, I feel that the Lakers are... I feel that the playoff berth is still something good. And hey, at least the Lakers won the in-season tournament. Silver lining. Larry B says, I hate the Lakers right now. Yeah, I do too. And it really, 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 really is sucky. Unfortunately, that's just how it is, and the Clippers just can't escape their own foolishness. On the other side of the spectrum, we had the Clippers that didn't even need the play-in round. They actually took down the Dallas Mavericks 109-97. Now, I saw this score, and I saw the Clippers were laying down the smackdown on the Mavericks. It got so bad that the Mavericks were held to just 30 points in the first half altogether. They were held to 8 points in the freaking second quarter. Oh, Dallas Mavs, that's just sad right there. Anyway, but I will just say the Clippers, I'm a little surprised the Clippers just straight up thumped the Mavs. And keep in mind, I actually am bearing the lead here. The Clippers didn't even have freaking Kawhi Leonard. The Mavs literally lost to a Clipperless Kawhi Leonard team. Now, I'm not certain of the extent of the injury when it comes to Kawhi Leonard, but it sounds a little serious if you ask me, as I think it was like a hamstring injury. Let me just confirm it, and yeah, right knee inflammation. Okay, so I wasn't even remotely close, except it was on the part of the leg. But yeah, right knee inflammation. He's been ruled out against the Dallas Mavericks. Now, this was courtesy of Grant Afseth, who is the beat writer covering the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA and WNBA in general. But he didn't really say that the Kawhi Leonard was going to be out for the series. He just said that he's out against the Mavericks. So that's a little vague if you ask me. But I'm hoping for the Clippers' sake they're able to have their way against the Mavericks. My brother basically said that he thinks that the Dallas Mavericks could go to the Western Conference Finals. And honestly, that's actually a good pick. If it were up to me, I would say that the Mavs would go to the playoffs. But after this stinker, I don't know. I mean, even Shaquille O'Neal, the former Laker, he has the Mavs advancing to the second round. But he also has the Lakers advancing to the second round. But looking at this game from the Clippers, Luka Doncic obviously had his way. He had 33 points. He had 1/3 of the Mavericks' points. James Harden really cooked, though. He had 28 points. Ivica Zubac had 20 points and 15 boards. Paul George had a solid 22 points. Russell Westbrook came off the bench and added 13 points. And the Clippers were 50% from downtown. They made 18 threes. And the Mavs only had 10, and they shot under 40%. So, all in all, for the Clips, everything just pretty much went down for them. And for the Mavericks, everything went down for them, just not in the way that they wanted. So, it's just one game, however. So, if I'm a Clippers fan, I'm kind of celebrating this. But, honestly, I'm taking a deep breath and thinking, okay, it's one game, but they still have 3 more to go to advance. So the next time these two teams play is on Tuesday on TNT, and then the series shifts to Dallas on Friday, and then it shifts back, or it still continues to be in Dallas on next Sunday. And then I imagine this one's at least going to go 6. I have a feeling Clippers will probably win this one in 6, maybe 7. If it were up to me, I'd say this series is going 7, but you never know if Kawhi Leonard does come back. If he does come back, then I will 100% predict Clippers in 6. But if he doesn't come back, then this one has to go 7. And Aaron Yowell is in the chat room. Thank you for joining me. He says, "Let's go, Teran. Have a great show." And I appreciate that. He also says, "Shaq, that's a terrible pick." Yeah, I mean, I'll circle back to that pick a little bit later. But a quick little shameless plug for Aaron Yowell. His show will be going live with Mile High Musings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So definitely check out his side of the spectrum when it comes to the Denver Nuggets and whatnot, and the Denver Nuggets Los Angeles Lakers series. So all in all, you won't want to miss it. I'm 95% certain it's going to be Nuggets are probably going to stomp on the Lakers. But again, like I said, the Lakers making the playoffs is basically an accomplishment for me. But at least both LA teams made the playoffs. Anyway, that's going to do it for the NBA portion of this show. And yeah, that's pretty much that for the NBA. So jumping to the NHL. So regarding the NHL, the last game of the season, or the last week of the season, was this past week, where the Kings lost to the Wild 3-1 last Monday, and then in overtime they took down the Chicago Blackhawks 5-4, which I'm surprised they needed overtime to freaking beat the Blackhawks. Like, what? Anyway, so the Los Angeles Kings, I'm not even going to talk about the Ducks. They just stink. Anyway, the Kings finished 3rd in the Pacific Division, and they will draw the Edmonton Oilers, which I think is a very good matchup for the Kings. I think they play much better against the Oilers than they do the Vancouver Canucks. That's the good news. The bad news is Edmonton has the home court advantage throughout this series. But if the Kings do steal one on the road, then that could be something special. I think that the Kings can definitely, I think it's more winnable, and I think this one, they can definitely handle this one. I think they can definitely win this series. It's just all about keeping it consistent. Because the Kings down the stretch, they did pretty good. It's just that I kind of was boggled by that Minnesota Wild loss. But especially since Minnesota had really nothing to play for. But maybe the Kings were just resting starters, but instead of vying for position. It got to the point where actually the last game of the season really mattered for both teams, and had Vegas won their last game of the season, they would have had a higher seed than the Kings, but that was not the case. So unfortunately for the Golden Knights, they draw Vancouver while the Kings draw Edmonton, which I think, again, it's much better for the Kings, but for the Golden Knights, I feel I would not underestimate the Golden Knights. They may not be as great as last year's team, but you never want to underestimate the heart of a champion. So there we go. And then the Ducks, they won their last game of the season. Good for them. We don't care. That was their Stanley Cup. So they're done for the season. They're done. They're well done. And now they're about to be taken out the oven. So there we have it right there for the Ducks. They finished with the third worst record in the league ahead of Chicago and San Jose. San Jose had the worst record in the league. Oof. But as a Ducks fan, I shouldn't flex my muscles at that. As a Ducks fan, I shouldn't even be gloating, just because the Ducks had so much promise early on, and then they went south for the winter. No pun intended. So there's that. All right, but that is going to do it for some NHL. Best of luck to those Kings, as the Kings, they actually kick off the series tomorrow against Edmonton. That's going to be on ESPN2. And honestly, I feel this is going to be Kings in like 6. If they steal at least one on the road, they're in good shape. So there we have it right there. All right, but that's that for the LA Kings. Let's jump to a little MLS as, well, unfortunately for the Galaxy, they have not played, as their matchup falls today when they take on San Jose at the Dignity Health Sports Park. I almost blanked on the name, or I almost called it StubHub Center, but they're playing at Dignity Health Sports Park, and they play the San Jose Quakes, which is actually the worst team in the Western Conference. So, moral of the story, the Galaxy have to win. I will also just say that the Galaxy are no longer in first place. They're now in third place behind Real Salt Lake and Vancouver. Vancouver occupies the top spot. But if the Galaxy do win, they'll be back in first place. So good job to the Galaxy, even though we have yet to see them play this week. Hopefully they don't overlook the San Jose Quakes, because it's kind of a rivalry game right there. And then yesterday, LAFC tied with the New York Red Bulls 2-2. As the Red Bulls got on the board with an own goal from LAFC, which is not like hockey, where if the last person to basically slap the puck in is basically the goal recipient. So there you have it. So just a little bit of a fun fact right there. MLS does not function the same way as NHL does, which I think is dumb. Anyway. So that occurred in the 8th minute, and that was the only goal in the first half, as the Red Bulls wound up leading 1-0 at halftime. But then Dennis Bouanga knocked in a goal for LAFC in the 67th minute via a penalty kick. So suddenly it was tied 1-1, and everything's looking good for LAFC, right? No. In 14 minutes after that penalty shot, Emil Forsberg knocked in a goal for the Red Bulls, putting them up 2-1 against LAFC. And at that point, it was looking all doomy and gloomy for LAFC. But in extra time, Dennis Bouanga scored 5 minutes into extra time, and that salvaged 1 point for LAFC. And that 1 point could go a long way. And thank goodness for LAFC winning that one. Just because the Red Bulls, I will say that's actually a good team right there. They're actually the second best in the Eastern Conference. So there's certainly not they're not anything to sneeze at. So good job to the LAFC for salvaging a tie. Currently, LAFC is in 6th place, and there's plenty of season left for LAFC to basically rise to the occasion. So all in all for LAFC, again, it's not like the MLB where it's a marathon and a sprint. The thick of the MLS season doesn't really come until like August, September, and October. That's when it starts to become a sprint. But July, there's 7 games, and we also haven't even gotten into the whole mid-season tournament or any of the CONCACAF tournaments or any of those mid-season tournaments that just randomly pop up, and then they have to basically postpone some of these MLS teams' games. But that's that for some MLS action. The Galaxy and Quakes are the second matchup that's being played today in terms of the MLS, as Charlotte and Minnesota are also playing, so can't really forget about those two. But Galaxy San Jose should be a good matchup just because the two are actually rivals. They're actually in-state rivals. It's not as big as, like, let's say, El Tráfico with the Galaxy and LAFC, but honestly, I feel that this is kind of an underrated rivalry. I call it the... I don't know what the actual vernacular is, but I'm just going to call it the SoCal NorCal rivalry. or the California border battle, or the 405, the Battle of the 405. I know these are such terrible names. I'm sorry, but that's going to do it for the LA Galaxy portion of the show. Jumping to some NWLS as we'll continue to talk some football before we get into a little football. So as for San Diego Wave FC, they actually fell to Orlando, which the Orlando Pride 1-0, which the only goal was scored courtesy of Summer Yates in the 26th minute. So that's not really convenient for Wave FC as they're in 9th place in the NWSL. Their next matchup won't be until Saturday when they host Bay FC. So Bay FC, as we all know, they're an expansion team, which I think is pretty cool. So just shows that NWSL is growing. And then Angel City FC kind of has the same scenario that the LA Galaxy are in. They don't play until later this Sunday, which is actually going to be less than an hour as of this recording. 1 hour to be exact. As Angel City hosts the North Carolina Courage? Yeah, the Courage. Yeah, the Angel City FC hosts the North Carolina Courage. I was about to say Pride, but that's Orlando. But Angel City hosts the North Carolina Courage at 4:30. Then they'll be back in action as they'll have a shorter week than normal as they will play the Kansas City Current at home on Friday, which I think is going to be solid. Angel City is currently 10th in the NWSL, and the Current are actually first in the NWSL, as they're one of 3 teams that have not lost this season. The others are Orlando, which just beat Wave FC, and Louisville, which actually just got their first win of the season after they had 4 draws. But that is that for Angel City FC and Wave FC. Not too much to talk about, but in that regard. But honestly, it would have been better to see Wave FC get the win. It just sucks when the offense isn't there, but your goalie is just making so many big plays. But let's move on from the football and jump to the football as the Chargers just signed someone most recently, which, well, good for them. They signed someone big time right now, and this is actually pretty funny. So yesterday, or if not, it was Friday, Jim Harbaugh actually got himself a tattoo, and the dude got a Michigan tattoo. So the reason being is that Michigan won the national championship, and I guess he made a promise to someone that he'd get a Michigan tattoo. And now I remember is that I think he told a Chargers fan that if Michigan were to win the national championship, he actually told this to a Chargers fan secretly at Disneyland. He said that he'd be coming to the Chargers, and he said if Michigan were to win the national championship in football, then he'd get a tattoo with the undefeated record, which I think is pretty awesome right there. So there you have it right there, and I promised Adam Karnick, the host of Chi-Town Weekly, that I would talk about some of the picks that the Chargers and Rams might be picking in the first round of the NFL draft, and I'm not going to go back on my word. But before I get on into that, the Chargers did add someone, and they added. Can we get a drum roll, please? The Chargers have signed 3 days ago. They signed running back J.K. Dobbins, which is another Baltimore Raven. So they go from one Harbaugh to another. So the funny thing is that he actually joins Gus Edwards. So at least the running back room will have some familiarity, and it has some experience. So I think it's an okay signing. I wouldn't say it's the greatest, but all in all, it's a decent signing. I mean, I think he suffers from the same problem that Gus Edwards has. He has to be healthy in order to be effective. But I think this is pretty good. And again, he goes from one Harbaugh to the next, which I think is pretty awesome if you ask me. So that is pretty much that for the Chargers in terms of their signings. And unfortunately, Eric Sivers, this is actually something I did not mention on the last show. Eric Sivers recently passed away, and my thoughts and prayers go out to former Charger Eric Sivers and his family. So it's sad, but it is what it is. So jumping over to their mock draft. So this was kind of their most recent mock draft, courtesy of Omar Navarro, a junior writer. So this was from according to the Chargers website, this was their most recent mock draft. So Bruce Feldman of The Athletic, he has the Chargers selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. All right, so this is kind of interesting. The Chargers selected Marvin Harrison Jr. That would either imply that he has the Chargers trading up to 4, or heaven forbid, maybe even trading up higher, but they'd have to give up a lot. Or Marvin Harrison Jr. falls down to where the Chargers have him, which I think would be so ideal. Considering they lost Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, I think that would be so ideal to get Marvin Harrison Jr. And according to Feldman, he says he's got good length, strength, burst, polish, and competitiveness. Now, he has to fall to the Chargers. First, the Chargers have to draft him in order for him to be on the Chargers. But I think that's a little bit of a stretch for the Chargers to get Marvin Harrison Jr. But if he does fall to the Chargers, I imagine the Chargers will be selecting him with the 5th overall pick. But I just don't see it happening just because the Arizona Cardinals, they need another wide receiver for Kyler Murray. And I'm pretty sure the Patriots are going to draft QB as well as Washington. And for sure, Chicago is going to be drafting Caleb Williams from USC. So you have that right there. Moving on, Lance Zierlein of NFL.com also has Marvin Harrison Jr. If the first 4 picks are not spent on quarterbacks, this could be a trade-out spot for the Chargers. But if the draft plays out like it did in this exercise, Los Angeles' decision could come down to the offensive tackle versus one of the top 3 receivers. Harbaugh saw this Ohio State star up close during his Michigan tenure and trusts his little eyes right here. So, again, I really hope that the Chargers land Marvin Harrison Jr. If they get him, awesome, but I still would rather have Malik Neighbors. But, again, Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't bad. And then Josh Edwards of CBS Sports has offensive tackle J.C. Latham from Alabama getting drafted by the Chargers. Now, he's also projecting that the Chargers trade down to 11 and then allow the Vikings to draft at 5, which would have the Vikings pick a quarterback after they lost Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons. But for J.C. Latham, he says, J.C. Latham over Olu Fashanu may come as a surprise, but the Chargers may be more inclined to draft a right tackle than force Rashawn Slater to switch positions. Offensive line is probably the direction head coach Jim Harbaugh wants to address, with tight end Brock Bowers being the dark horse. Now, this is actually good. I totally understand. But how much cap space do the Chargers actually have? I mean, they got rid of quite a bit when they released Mike Williams and they traded away Keenan Allen and they made some other moves as well. But how much cap space can they really get to try to lure in a big-time wide receiver? And do they really trust Quentin Johnston to flourish after such a dud first year? Maybe he'll flourish. I understand they also have Joshua Palmer as well as Jalen Guyton, but we're really banking on Quentin Johnston to have a big year and possibly at least the wide receiver too. Then Max Chadwick of Pro Football Focus also he has Talise Fuaga of Oregon State being drafted. He says Jim Harbaugh's offenses are known to play smash mouth football, winning through the trench dominance. Fuaga is a perfect fit for that philosophy, as his 90.9 run block grade in 2023 was more than 4 points higher than the next closest FBS tackle. He also slots in perfectly at right tackle, opposite of Rashawn Slater. So, again, this is another good scenario where the Chargers should draft an offensive lineman. And that's totally not a bad idea, especially when they'll learn and grow. And the Chargers for this upcoming year, I understand people aren't going to say the Chargers aren't going to be good in the first year, because you can't just slap Jim Harbaugh onto a roster and then basically expect a 10 or 10 plus win season. So, and then Nick Baumgartner of The Athletic has Joe Alt of Notre Dame, an offensive tackle, being drafted by the Chargers. Now, he also has the Chargers trading downward to number 8 with the Falcons. But I'm wondering who the Falcons would draft. I mean, they already have the tight end from Florida who never gets utilized and is a fantasy football bust, unfortunately. But who would the Falcons draft? But over to the Chargers. The Chargers need receivers, to be sure. But Harbaugh and offensive coordinator Greg Roman also need studs up front like Alt. Also remember how deep the wide receiver class is. Second round, he has the Chargers selecting center Zach Frazier. Also in the second round, he also has the Chargers selecting Keon Coleman of Florida State. And then the third round, there's Peyton Wilson of North Carolina State. And then Charles McDonald and Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports have Joe Alt from Notre Dame being selected. Then Maurice Jones-Drew of NFL.com, he has Talise Fuaga of Oregon State being selected. Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports, he has J.C. Latham being selected. Arjun Menon has wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. being selected. Arjun Menon is from PFF, Pro Football Focus. And then it's basically just offensive tackles or Marvin Harrison Jr. So I'm going to take a stab and say that getting Brock Bowers is out of the question. But Joseph Acosta of SB Nation, he has the Chargers selecting Malik Neighbors. So that's what I'm thinking. Now that I think about it, I think Brock Bowers wouldn't really be the best. I mean, it wouldn't be the greatest pick, but I don't think the Chargers should focus on tight end right away, especially since they got a bunch of them like Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst through free agency. So I think the Chargers should lay off tight ends and they should just focus on either wide receiver or offensive tackle. So this trade actually comes to the Chargers trading down with the Vikings, and Acosta says this pick could go a multitude of ways. If the Jets decide to pick one of the following receivers, Bowers is a great fit. If both Bowers and the third receiver are gone, I could see a right tackle like Oregon State's Talise Fuaga or Georgia's Amarius Mims here. In this mock, Neighbors falls to 11 and Justin Herbert gets some electricity to add to this offense. And then this is part of the trade. And then Acosta also has the Chargers selecting cornerback and safety Cooper DeJean of Iowa. Now that would not be a bad pick as well. So, and then they would also, in this trade with the Vikings, the Chargers would select Zach Frazier from West Virginia. And then Charles Davis of NFL.com, he also has Malik Neighbors going to the Chargers. Rob Rang of Fox Sports has Joe Alt. Michael Middlehurst Schwartz of USA Today has Marvin Harrison Jr. being selected in the draft. And then Deontay Lee of the 33rd team has J.C. Latham going to the Chargers. Christian DeAndre of For the Win, he has Quinion Mitchell? What? So this is a projected trade that he has. So the Chargers trade down to 12 with the Broncos and then trade down again to 14 with the Saints. This is why I don't like doing mock drafts. So if the Chargers want to trade that low, they should give their pick to the Rams. Anyway, Tyler Forness of Sporting News has the Chargers selecting Brock Bowers, and this is another trade with the Vikings, as they'd be trading down to 11. So they would have 2 first-round picks in this regard, as they'd have the 23rd pick from the Vikings, and they would select Ladd McConkey of Georgia, and he's a wide receiver. All right, well, that's actually not terrible. I mean, yes, the Chargers miss out on an offensive tackle, but that's pretty okay. And then Keith Sanchez of the Draft Network, he has Talise Fuaga. And that's pretty much that for the most recent mock draft from the Chargers. So a lot of mixed bags here. That one with the Chargers trading down to Denver, then New Orleans, that is a little trippy. I mean, I understand the Chargers need defensive help, but they could build off that in terms of the later rounds. Just saying. I mean, they didn't even draft the Florida State cornerback. I'm blanking on his name. It's the Florida State cornerback, Asante Samuel Jr. They didn't draft him until the second round, and most people had Asante Samuel Jr. getting drafted in the first round. So I could see the Chargers building off defense more in the later rounds than the first round. So there's that right there. All right, but that's that for the Chargers mock draft. Jumping over to the Rams. I'm on the Rams X account, and it says a pick in the first round. Well done, Rams admin. Well done. So, oh man, that's pretty funny right there. The Rams admin in terms of X is definitely deserves an A+ and a big W award. But most recently, I do have to send my condolences to the Rams and the Ramily, as Roman Gabriel passed away, as he was a Rams legend and football pioneer. So my thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Roman Gabriel, and may he rest in everlasting peace. So looking at the draft they haven't really released a mock draft as of late, which that's pretty sucky if you ask me. They haven't released one in the later weeks, which again I think the Rams go defense. If it were up to me, I'd have the Rams pick a corner. Which if no one has any objections, I think that'd be great. I just think they're either going to get an edge rusher or they're going to get a cornerback, because they need a solid corner. And with Aaron Donald retiring, they need all the defensive help that they can get. But if they go, I guess they could also go offensive line, and I guess they could also trade up. I mean, the Chargers would be enticing, but how many more picks can the Rams give up to the Chargers? And how much more can the Rams give up in general without destroying their core that made the playoffs last year? So that would be quite something if the Rams traded up to the Chargers. The fifth pick, but then I would wonder, who would they go with the fifth pick? They certainly don't need any more wide receiver help. I highly doubt picking a running back would be in the cards, because they have Kyron Williams. I just don't think that trading up with I think the Chargers would be foolish to trade all the way down to pick 19, which is the Rams pick, or 18. Regardless, the Rams and Chargers being drafted would not happen. But in most recent news, offensive outside linebacker Alaric Jackson and running back Ronnie Rivers had their free agent tenders signed their free agent tenders. So there's that right there. And yeah, nothing really too big time in terms of the Rams. And then also this past week, the Rams signed linebacker Troy Reeder. So Troy Reeder is back with the Rams. So good stuff. But Akilla Weatherspoon has not been signed, which, okay, that's bad. All right, but that's going to do it for the Rams. It doesn't look like they have a most recent mock draft unless I'm missing something. But I guess I forgot to mention this on last week's show, and I didn't really talk a whole lot about NFL, is that Kobe Turner actually sang the Lakers' national anthem when the Lakers took on the Golden State Warriors. This was on April 19th, which I think is very awesome. I've totally blanked on Kobe Turner singing the national anthem in the Lakers game, which I think is amazing. And it takes a whole lot of balls. One day I will muster up the cojones to sing the national anthem. But knowing me, I will probably stumble on We're So Gallant Lee Slee Ming and whatnot. I'd probably stumble. Anyway, but yeah, that's pretty much that for the Rams and whatnot. Unfortunately, that's just how it is, and yeah, they don't really have. There hasn't really been too much news, and they don't have a mock draft, which I think is stupid. How am I supposed to talk about the freaking Rams and their mock draft? I mean, again, I'd have them taking a corner, if anything. If not, they'll take an edge rusher. I'm really interested to see when and who and what the Rams are going to do with that first pick. The only thing that would extremely surprise me is if they traded the first pick to for multiple picks. I could see the Rams doing that. Maybe they want to get more quantity instead of quality, but all in all, it's a massive waiting game for the Rams. And Larry B one time said it best, the Rams really are a little bit of a weird team, but at least they're weird in the sense that they're heading to the right direction, and it just shows that maybe effing them picks is kind of not the way to go, but oh well. Alright, that is going to do it for the Rams portion of the show. Let's take ourselves a quick little breaky break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit of MLB, and we'll have the Dum-Dum of the Week for real this time. I'm not going to beat around the bush or put it off like I did last week. So keep it locked here. You're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
What's good, everyone? It's Drewski, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From where we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows on IE Sports Radio, such as Let's Whine About DMV Sports, the Sports Couple Perspective, and all those amazing shows. But let's get on back into that SoCal sports action, as we got to talk a little about some MLB, as this is kind of the grim portion of the show. I hate to use that word, but it's been a little tough for the Dodgers as of late, as they haven't really been the world beater self that they are, as this past week, they only won one game against the Nationals. At home, mind you. So Monday, they lost to the Nationals 6-4. They beat the Nationals, well, that was on Monday. Tuesday, they beat the Nationals 6-2. And then Wednesday, they got shut out against the Nationals 2-0. Then, this past weekend, they struggled against the New York Mets. Oh, God, what are the Dodgers doing, dude? As they lost to the Mets 9-4 on Friday. Saturday they lost 6-4, and then today they beat the Mets 10-0, which, thank God, but because the Dodgers, that's kind of interesting if you ask me, because it's, again, this is kind of concerning me. I know, like I've mentioned, the MLB is not a sprint, it's a marathon. There's lots of time left, but with all that talent, the Dodgers should not be struggling. It's a miracle that they're actually still in first place. But with all that talent, me are totally concerned. Anyway, so Dodgers are back in action when they fly out to our nation's capital to take on the Washington Nationals on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then after that, they head to Canada to take on the Toronto Blue Jays on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, like I mentioned, the Dodgers are still in first place in the NL West, but the entire NL West has been all over the place. And I no offense to Aaron if he's still listening, but Colorado has just been... Ugh. Now, as for the Padres, they actually have been doing slightly better. They actually split their 6 games this week, as Monday they took down the Milwaukee Brewers 7-3, and then Tuesday they took them down 6-3. And then Wednesday they lost a heartbreaker, losing 1-0, where the first run, the only run, didn't get scored until the 8th inning. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Padres only won 1 out of 2 games against Toronto. As Friday they lost to the Blue Jays 5-1. Saturday, they didn't do much better as they lost that one 5-2. And then today, the Padres took down the Blue Jays 6-3, which is nice. And believe it or not, the Padres are actually one game back of those Doyers. Anyway, so the Padres are back in action tomorrow when they fly out to the Rocky Mountains to take on the Colorado Rockies on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then Thursday they have the day off. They'll be flying back to California. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday they'll host those Philadelphia Phillies. So at least they're still doing solid. They're still on track to winning. Well, it's early, but they're still on track for first place in the NL West behind the Dodgers. And then the Angels, this is kind of the way depressing part of the show. I mean, they split their series against the Rays this past week, as Monday they wound up winning by a football score of 7-3, and then Tuesday they wound up getting rallied back by the Rays by a football score of 7-6. Wednesday they beat the Rays 5-4, and then Thursday they lost to the Rays 2-1. This was on the road, mind you. And then this past weekend they got swept by the Cincinnati Reds, which they are the Angels that we all know and love, as they lost to the Reds on Friday 7-1, Saturday 7-5, and then today they lost 3-0. So the Angels are basically crashed back to reality. These are the Angels we kind of expected to see, and these are the Angels that are going to drive me up a wall. Alright, so looking at the Angels this week, they host the Baltimore Orioles tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday they will have that day off, and then Friday they will welcome in the Minnesota Twins on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which I think is going to be pretty solid if you ask me. But in all honesty, I feel that this week is going to get a little bit tougher. Like they've got the Orioles, which are looking really good. Can't believe the Yankees are also looking good as well. And then the Twins are not looking as good, but they can't overlook them. I mean, look at what happened against Cincinnati. They're kind of the night and day team, but it is what it is for the Angels, and I just want this season to be over. Don't give me false hope, Angels. All right, but that is going to do it for the MLB portion of the show. I know it was a pretty brief synopsis and whatnot, but that's basically it. So before we get on out of here, I got to go over Dum Dum of the Week. So Dum Dum of the Week is an award I like to give out to, which no one is safe. It's either to a person or an organization that says something dumb or does something dumb. And I actually didn't know if I was going to have a Dum Dum of the Week, but I actually found a couple I actually found one more extra this past week. Well, I actually have 3 Dum Dums of the Week, but I actually have another one. Another couple came up beforehand. So we'll start with the first Dum Dum of the Week. So remember how the Lakers took down the New Orleans Pelicans? Well, I gotta tell you. You want to know what I gotta say to Pels fans? Hey. So you want to know what I gotta say to Pelicans fans who thought they won the Anthony Davis trade? There are some people that think the Lakers still lost the Anthony Davis trade. You Pelicans fans, the people who still think the Pelicans wound up winning the Anthony Davis trade, let me ask you, what have the Pelicans done the past few years? What have they won even? This is actually their first playoff appearance. I want to say it's their first playoff appearance since the Anthony Davis trade. If not, it's probably their second. But they haven't won a series. The Lakers have won multiple series. They won a championship. And after that win over in the play-in round, I am 100% convinced the Lakers wound up winning the Anthony Davis trade. Nobody here can debate it now. And you want to know who came up big for the Lakers in that play-in game? Anthony Davis. Lakers were up 2. LeBron missed a shot, unfortunately. Anthony Davis got the rebound, and then he was fouled, made 2 free throws down the stretch, and it was basically just make the the free throw game, which the Lakers actually accomplished, believe it or not. So everyone who was basically ragging on the Lakers, saying they need to trade AD, or the Lakers lost the Anthony Davis trade, well, who's laughing now? 'Cause I am. I'm laughing at all y'all that straight up said the Lakers lost the AD trade, when in reality, they won it and then some. And nobody can debate this. Lakers were the 100% winner of the Anthony Davis trade, and nobody can basically take that away. So to anyone who continues to say that the Lakers lost the Anthony Davis trade, you're dumb of the week, and I don't want to hear any more debate about it.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
All right, that is that for the first dumb of the week. Now for the second dumb of the week, and I gotta basically mention to this. This actually just came up today, and here is why. Okay, if you make an NCAA tournament in any regard, that should definitely mean that you make an NCAA tournament. So, according to what I was told, so everyone knows NCAA men's volleyball gets little to no love. So, back in the old day, the NCAA tournament had only 5 automatic qualifiers from the MPSF, which had like UCLA and USC, the Big West, which has Long Beach State and UC Irvine and CSUN and UC San Diego. And then there was the EIVA, which is like East Coast teams, the MIVA, which is like Midwestern teams, and then there was another one, the Conference of Carolinas, which was probably the little brother of those 5 automatic qualifiers. And then there was 2 at-large bids. If not, there were like there were 2 at-large bids. So the AVCA mentioned that Belmont Abbey is a new participant, or is a newcomer when it comes to the NCAA men's volleyball tournament, or as the correct vernacular is called, the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Championship. I think that is the worst vernacular ever. I'm just going to call it NCAA Men's Volleyball Tournament, and nobody can change my mind. Anyway, so I, being the set point guru, said that Belmont Abbey made the NC Men's Volleyball Tournament in 2021, which was the year they managed to upset Mount Olive in the Conference of Carolinas tournament. But according to what I was told, courtesy of Tiff Wells, who is the play-by-play guy for Hawaii men's volleyball and other Hawaii sports, he said back in the day, playing an opening round tournament back in the day, playing in opening round matches weren't considered part of the actual tournament, and the NCAA didn't recognize it as an official appearance. This is for NCAA men's volleyball, mind you, and I know most of y'all ain't big on NCAA men's volleyball, but what kind of stupid crap is that? If you make the NCAA tournament, you make the NCAA tournament. What kind of stupidity from the NCAA is this? First and foremost, the NCAA men's volleyball field is so small. It was 7 teams back then. And thankfully it got bigger, as there's now a new automatic qualifier from the SIAC, which is the Southern Interscholastic Athletic Conference. But you're telling me that Belmont Abbey's appearance from that year isn't considered a valid participation of the NCAA tournament or the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament? That is stupid. That's basically taking away the joy of making the tournament. You might as well just say, the Conference of Carolinas recipient that makes the National Collegiate tournaments is probably just saying, congratulations, you made the tournament and you're from the Conference of Carolinas. Here's an actual opponent that you're going to get stomped on by. So, first and foremost, I will stand by Belmont Abbey men's volleyball and say that is an NCAA or National Collegiate men's volleyball tournament participation in terms of that year, 2021. Second of all, the NCAA has done men's volleyball dirty, like extremely dirty. That will be coming a little bit later, but in terms of the NCAA in terms of NCAA doing Belmont Abbey dirty, they are dum of the week. It's like, you can't just do that to a small school like Belmont Abbey. Heck, they're primarily a Division II school, but since there's no NCAA Division II and that National Collegiate is lumped to being Division I and II, basically Belmont Abbey is kind of Division I in men's volleyball, but in other sports they're not Division I, from what I'm hearing. But still, I think that is still stupid as heck. So the NCAA that does not acknowledge Belmont Abbey as an actual participant in the NCAA tournament or the National Collegiate tournament in men's volleyball is dumb of the week. There is no debate.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Oh, but it gets worse when it comes to the NCAA. So the NCAA thought it was a good idea. So back in 2022, it was post-COVID. No more masks. Sorry to get a little political. No more masks, no more COVID, no more testing, no more a whole lot of that sort of thing. I mean, yes, it happens every now and then, but I will just say, back in 2022, Alan Knipe, the Long Beach State men's volleyball coach, he basically was asked this in a press conference. How could NCAA men's volleyball get 1% better? And Alan Knipe said to not stream the NCAA men's volleyball matches and just show them, televise it. Like, put them on ESPN or ESPNU or ESPN Plus or FSN. Or not FSN, or Fox Sports West, or Fox Sports entirely. But here's the thing. So, yeah, he went on a nice little 2-minute rant saying you got to grow the game and how social media is played into a part of it. Well, let me just tell you. You want to know what's going to happen again? 2 years later, NCAA when it comes to men's volleyball is basically, it hasn't changed. First and foremost, the social media is pretty much been Dullsville. It hasn't been active and hasn't tweeted out anything properly since over a year, in almost a year. Their Instagram is basically the same thing, as there's actually a screenshot. Like, what the heck? Who do they hire in terms of their social media? Like, monkeys? Or whatnot? But when it comes to the NCAA with men's volleyball for this year, unfortunately, they're not going to be televising the first round or the semifinals. It's going to be all televised or it's going to be showed on NCAA.com, which the reason why that matters is because there are 3 teams from Southern California that got into the tournament: UCLA, UC Irvine, and Long Beach State. And you mean to tell me that those teams are going to be seen on the NCAA on NCAA.com when they can actually be seen on television? At least put it on ESPN Plus NCAA. Whoever made the decision to put the first 2 rounds of the NCAA men's volleyball tournament on NCAA.com is a freaking idiot. And the worst part is the national championship match is only going to be on ESPN2. At least put the semifinals on ESPN2, and maybe I understand, but this is a ridiculous thing. This has been a running theme that NCAA men's volleyball has been getting the shaft, and this is why I'm so keen and big on promoting NCAA men's volleyball on Set Point and whatnot. It's really ridiculous if you ask me, and NCAA men's volleyball deserves better. The NCAA, I feel, is absolutely disappointing. I get it. It's not as big as football or basketball or any of those other big-time sports, but NCAA men's volleyball as a whole is growing rapidly, and I can actually prove this. And this is courtesy of the NCAA, as according to the NCAA, at 78.2%, NCAA men's volleyball has seen the largest increase in participation since 2012 and 2013. Yet the NCAA is not doing anything to grow and show the game. Shame on you, NCAA. Shame on freaking you for not showing the game a whole lot in terms of being on television and for basically just having... I mean, their selection show was okay. I'm not going to rag on it, but honestly, why is there just one analyst in the studio and then there's another guy on Zoom? Why can't they just fly the analyst that was on Zoom over to Indiana, which is the headquarters of the NCAA, and then have him talk about it? Why does he have to be on Zoom? I have so many questions for the NCAA regarding men's volleyball. It would probably be longer than this show. But honestly, NCAA, you get 2 dum-dums of the week. 2 dum-dums of the week for your incompetence and your lack of respect to NCAA men's volleyball. Sincerely, the host of Set Point and a Southern California native who is advocating for UCLA, Long Beach State, and UC Irvine men's volleyball to be shown in better quality and not just on a freaking website. So take the second dum-dum of the week and leave NCAA.
So dumb. You are really dumb.
Say that again, my guy.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all she wrote. I can't do Dum Dum of the Week on Set Point just because I feel I could get in trouble even though I have a disclaimer. So that's kind of the reason why I have Dum Dum of the Week here on SoCal, and everyone knows what Dum Dum of the Week is when it comes to this show, whereas I have to explain what Dum Dum of the Week is on Set Point. But other than that, that's pretty much going to do it for this show. Larry B totally agrees with me regarding the NCAA. That's crap. And also, I should add one more thing regarding the NCAA men's volleyball field is so small. It's only 8 teams. I mean, I get it. It's an improvement from 6 teams and from 7 teams from the years before, but it's only 8 freaking teams. It's to the point where Damon men's volleyball, all the way back up east, is so disappointed that they're not in. But honestly, the criteria is basically they wouldn't get in just because their conference isn't an automatic qualifier. But honestly, do freaking better, NCAA. Expand the damn tournament. Show the game on television and not on freaking NCAA.com. And just do everything in your power to actually make NCAA men's volleyball great again. Alright, before I lose my mind, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And Jen B says, preach, Teran. I just found out that Hiram has a men's volleyball team just because I happened to tweet about it. And thank you, Jen B, for mentioning that. I did not... That did not go unnoticed, so thank you for that, Jen B. But with all that said and done, it's high time for me to get on out of here, because I gotta get me some lunch before dinner occurs. Yeah, dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I deeply appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room, Jen B, Larry B. Ralph Clace also popped in. He says he was at dinner, but he saw the alert that the second half of the show was underway. Thank you, Ralph. I'm glad you were able to pop in. Aaron Yowell, Mike Pat, he was also in there as well. I appreciate everybody that tuned in live or on the playback. It really means a lot. I will be back tomorrow for Set Point. As for SoCal, I'm either shooting for Friday, if not maybe next Sunday, but we'll see what happens. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the Southern California sports action. Heck, Long Beach State is hosting the NCAA men's volleyball tournament next week. So it's not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. That's when the first round starts. It's all at Long Beach State. Definitely check it out if you're not busy. And who knows, maybe you'll see me there and I'll give you an autograph. But that's going to do it. I'll see you all tomorrow for Set Point. Have a great rest of the week. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!